This is CPM Precalculus Chapter 3, number 66. And this is a challenge problem. It requires a lot of thinking and it's really good. So let's go ahead and dive into this. We're asked to find the y-intercept b of a line y equals 2x plus b. Okay, so here's the y-intercept where it should be. So that the line is tangent to the parabola. And we have a parabola equation y equals x squared minus 6x plus 6. Okay. So the hint is going to be really helpful. If the line is tangent, there's only one point of intersection between the line and the parabola. Okay? So how should we start this? Well, first of all, if we have two lines intersecting, or two equations, two graphs intersecting, we know that means their y values are equal. So that means y is equal to 2x plus b, that's the b, and y is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 6, right? The two graphs here, they're equal to each other where there's an intersection. Right? So let's go ahead and set those equal to each other. 2x plus b is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 6. Okay? So again, this is where they're intersecting, because what is, we want to make this line so it's tangent to the parabola, and we're told that means that there's just one point of intersection. That means if our parabola looks like this, right, then the line should be like this and have one point of intersection. It's not going to be like this because that would be two intersection points. It won't be like this. It's going to be just like we drew there, one intersection point. Okay, that means it's just barely touching the edge at one point. Something like this, right? This makes it a tangent. This line is a tangent. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, we got to solve for x. Okay, so we're going to use the hint again because it says only one point of intersection. But how do we solve this for x? Well, let's get it equal to 0. So let's subtract 2x and subtract b from both sides. And we're left with 0 equals, these all cancel out, x squared minus, well, negative 6x and negative 2x combined to be negative 8x plus 6 minus b, right? This right here is a term that we could combine if we knew b, right? Because they both don't have x. All right. So how are we going to solve this this equation? Well, what we could do is use the quadratic formula, right? We have x squared plus something times x plus some constant equals to 0. So we know that we could solve for x is going to be negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? Be careful, this is not the same b here. So I'm going to call this b sub, I don't know, sub, it's the y-intercept, so I'm going to call it b sub intercept, right? I'll just call it b sub int for short. Okay, so these are different b's. And we know then if this is the quadratic formula we're using, a is going to be the coefficient in front of x, which is 1. B is going to be the coefficient, in front of x squared, which is 1. B is the coefficient in front of x, which is negative 8. And C is the constant without the x. So here that's 6 minus b int. Okay, I'm calling it int again for it's a different b than this one, the intercept, the y-intercept. Okay, so let's plug that in. Negative b means negative of negative 8. So that means negative of negative 8 plus or minus square root of b squared. So that's negative 8 squared minus 4ac. So minus 4 times a is 1 times c is 6 minus b. I'm just going to keep it as b now because we no longer have another b to confuse us, over 2a, so 2 times 1. All right. So if we continue to solve this, we're going to get something with a b in it still. So, but that's how we're going to approach this problem. But I want to go back up here and look at the problem itself again. We want to find b, right, the y-intercept b of this line so that it's tangent to the parabola. Remember, the hint says the line is tangent, then there's only one point of intersection between the line and the parabola. Okay? So what we have to remember here, this is going to give us two different points, right? Right now, this gives us 2 points, right? X, we're going to get x is equal to something, or x is equal to something else, right? That's going to give us 2 points. So what we're going to need to do is ask ourselves, how can we get this being only 1 point? 1 point? So this really is the question to ask yourself. So right now, how do we get 2 points from this? It's from the plus or minus here, right? This plus or minus gives us 2 points because we're going to have negative of negative 8, which is 8, plus this quantity divided by 2, and 8 over here minus this quantity divided by 2. Okay, so how do we guarantee ourselves only 1 point? Well, that's only true if this quantity equals to 0, because then we're going to be just plus or minusing 0, right? If we have negative of negative 8, so we have 8 plus or minus 0 over 2, plus or minus 0 just cancels out, we're left with 4. So this is only the case if over here this is equal to 0, right? If plus or minus square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6 minus b, if this whole thing is equal to 0, right? This is what we need to do, and then solve for 0. Okay? So if this quantity equals to 0, we can easily multiply both sides by plus or minus to cancel the plus or minus out, because plus or minus times 0 is still 0, right? So that's still equal to 0, because plus or minus 0 is still 0. So then we have square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6 minus b, right? Now, what do you want to do to solve for this? Well, let's square both sides. Let me use a different color. Square both sides. Then we get rid of the square root. We have negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6 minus b equals to 0 squared is still 0. Okay? So really we could have said was, well, what's inside here has to equal to 0 for there to be only 1 point, right? 1 point for x. Because right now we get 2 points, but if this is 0, we get 1 point. Okay? So now we're just going to simplify this. Negative 8 squared is 64, positive, because negative times negative is positive. Minus 4 times 1 is 4, times 6 minus b. Okay? The rest is pretty simple algebra to solve for b. We're going to distribute that negative 4, because this is plus and minus, so it's 64 minus 6 here times 4 is going to be minus 24. Negative 4 times negative b is plus 4b equals to 0. 64 minus 24, we can simplify, that's just 40, plus 4b equals to 0. Subtract 40 from both sides. 4b is equal to negative 40. Divide both sides by 4, and you're left with b has to equal to negative 10. Box that answer because this is the answer. B needs to be negative 10 for this problem to have a tangent line, right? So here, let's go back and look at the problem. Find the y-intercept b. We just found b is negative 10, right? Of the line y is equal to 2x plus b, right? So this is negative 10. so that this is tangent to the line, to the parabola here. So this is tangent to the parabola y is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 6. So let's graph this. I'm going to go ahead and graph 2x plus negative 10, right? That's our line. And then also x squared minus 6x plus 6. Graph that. I'm going to see that we have a tangent just like this we're talking about, right? Here's our parabola. And our tangent line, right, it touches the parabola just at one point, right? And we can see the graph that is true, and we found the y-intercept b is negative 10 for this to work out. All right, so that ends for us CPM Precalculus Chapter 3, number 66.